Mr. Bob Myers out of Caltrans is going to talk to us about zero injuries and accidents.
All of us are involved in the safety of the employees out there, and I think all of us agree that probably our employees are our number one asset, right? The most valuable asset we have. Work doesn't get done without the people. In fact, less work gets done when the people are in it. Because that ties up the vacancy, and I don't know about everyone else, but workman's comp is not a real good area to be in. Sometimes it takes years before some of those people are actually recovered well enough to come back to work. So one of the things that Caltrans as a whole did, they invited some key people in different classifications across the board to a place called Deloitte. And then we went into this room called the greenhouse, and we were supposed to come up with really innovative ways to improve the safety of Caltrans. And we had, design engineers in there, maintenance managers, maintenance superintendents, even the division chief of maintenance was there, along with myself and a whole bunch of other people. And we spent the entire day brainstorming on how are we going to improve the safety of the employees in Caltrans. And they came up with a lot of things, and they're actually moving forward with those. One of the things during the Deloitte presentation, they were talking about a person named Paul O'Neill. Anybody know who that is? He was the president and CEO of Alcoa back in the late, mid to late 80s into the early 90s. And he actually took the company from where it was failing and steered the ship back, because believe it or not, the aluminum is a very competitive market. And they made some business moves that really put them in a bad situation. And not only that, they had one of the worst safety records in the industry. So when he was appointed to the CEO level, he went to an investors meeting, his first investors meeting, and of course, they want to know how much are we going to be paid in dividends this year and those types of things. And he said in front of a group that my number one goal for Alcoa is to improve our safety record. Guess what happened? People got up, walked out of the room, got on the phone with the broker and said, sell that Alcoa stock, this thing's going to tank. Well, in 1 year's time, this guy that wrote the article said that was the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life as far as an investment goes. He said, so if you were $1 million investor in Alcoa, in a 12-month period, you got paid $1 million in dividends, just because of what he did. And he put the focus on safety, because he knew what would happen. It was all about the communication that was taking place, the innovation that was taking place. Money at that point, when you're paying $1 million in dividends, the company generated the revenue that he could afford to upgrade the things that he needed to upgrade to improve safety. So at that point, money was no object. His whole plan was, when there's an injury, and I don't care any kind of injury at any of our plants, think about that, that's a lot of them, worldwide, I'm to be notified within 24 hours. And not only am I notified, I want the people that are notifying me to give them a solution to the problem, how to fix it so it doesn't happen again. And remember, back in those days, the operator would stand right next to this big pot of molten aluminum, and they're getting splashed and all kinds of stuff, so injuries are pretty prevalent. So one of the first things they did was take the operator station and move it clear out of the way to the other side, and updated their plants so the molten aluminum wouldn't splash on people anymore. That's pretty huge in that industry, right? Now that's a standard. You don't have people around that stuff anymore. It's all standard by the control panel. So that kind of struck me as, we look at reports. We all look at injury reports, right? We classify them as type 2, type 3, preventable, non-preventable, the major injury or a minor injury. Really, what do we do about it? I noticed what we did was we looked at the number after a year and said, if you look at several years in a row, the trend will go up and the trend will go down. and you celebrate the years that it goes down, and then you say, oh my gosh, it went up, we gotta do something about safety. And so we maybe build some new posters, we come up with some great slogan, we increase the number of safety meetings, and it goes down the next year. If you really dig in deep to find out what the cause of those are, I think you're gonna find it's the weather. In the heavy winters, we have a lot of people working overtime, we've got 24-hour operations going, exposure's high, injuries go up. In the drought years, our injuries went down, continue to go down. Heavy winter, went back up, everybody says, oh, what's going on? So what I wanted to do was change that. I said, let's stop looking at the report. Let's look at it on an injury by injury basis, and then figure out a way to make sure it doesn't happen again. Let's get to the preventable part of accidents rather than reacting to them. It really isn't the solution. So what we came up with a zero injury and accident plan, and basically everybody named it ZIA. So ZIA today, within Caltrans Division of Equipment, you talk to any employee, they're gonna know what that means. And like I said, I kind of gave them a break. I kind of mirrored Paul O'Neill's plan, but since it's government, I said 48 hours is plenty of time. So my office chiefs, that report directly to me, are required to give me a plan within 48 hours of what happened in the incident and what they plan on doing to prevent it in the future. And in order for that to happen, it's got to go from the office chief to the superintendent to the supervisor, maybe even the lead worker, down to the employee level, and then back up the chain to me within 48 hours. What's that do? That really opens the communication window. And that's where the magic happens. Because the person that got injured probably knows better than anybody how they're going to prevent it in the future. It's not my office chief. It may not be the supervisor, but the supervisor has the ability to fix it. That's the key. So, like I said, ZIA started out with all they had to do was notify me. Well, the office chief said, man, we're getting so many of these things, I don't know how we're going to keep track of them. And I said, well, that's up to you. The plan was just to notify me so that we could come up with some solutions. So they came up with a ZIA report, and it's generated in Smartsheet. And Smartsheet, you can click a box and it automatically forwards it to the next person. And you can send it back to the other person if it's not right. So they generated this, which actually is a good thing, because when we get done with that, we use that to build a report. And so the second quarter of 2019, we had 31 injuries. And by the way, the ZIA has only been going on since January 1 of 2018. We now have 2 quarters of comparisons in 2019, so we can go first year 2018, first year 2019, and we're going to continue that and see where we're going. As you can see, we also track vehicle accidents. One's preventable, 2 are non-preventable. I mean, somebody just hit us. But we really want to look into those. Maybe they're not in the right place. Maybe they're pulled over on the shoulder, and maybe in the future that stretch of highway is going to be rehabbed, and we want to make sure that in the design process there might be a wider shoulder there for the person to pull off, get a little farther off the road. So one of the biggest things for us right now, and I've been struggling trying to tackle it, is sprains and strains. That's our biggest one for mechanics. We struggle with a solution because we're all getting a little older, our workforce is getting older, and I try to explain to them that I can't jump and bend and run as fast as I used to, so maybe some stretching in the morning would help. So one of our shops took that and ran with it. We had Kaiser come by and give a big demonstration on stretching, and then they implemented the stretching program in the morning. We pay the people to participate. If you don't want to participate in the stretching, then you pick up a broom and clean the shop. At least they're getting some physical activity, right? What he's telling me now, it's about 95% participation, which I think is kind of cool. It's been an evolution for us ever since. So we started with just the idea that I wanted to start a safety program. We got the reporting mechanism in place. We got the quarterly reports, the annual reports, and then I said, well, How are we gonna get the information from a shop that happened, an injury that happened in San Diego, to all the shops? Same thing, right? Just a different location. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we've got technical service bulletins, we've got engineering services bulletins, we've got maintenance repair service bulletins, we've got warranty notices. Guess what Division of Equipment didn't have? A safety bulletin. So we started building our own safety bulletins. And those safety bulletins are focused on the things that probably are the most injuries or have the most potential to be a major injury. And so we make sure that safety bulletins get out right after I get notified. And basically what we've done so far is our reductions have gone down from last year to this year by about 22%. But what's really impressive is that our hand injuries, this is an example of a muscle strain one we just sent out. Our hand injuries have reduced 50%. And how did we do that? We did a glove analysis. What do we have in stock at all of our shop locations throughout the state? Where we have mechanics, what gloves do they have, to use? Well, we found out that we didn't have the appropriate gloves for all the instances. There's gloves for just about everything you do these days. Besides, from welding to messing around with chemicals to, just impact resistant. There's puncture resistant, like if you're working on sweepers, you don't want the steel brooms, the gutter brooms get in your hands. We really put a lot of effort into that. And actually, 3 of the guys that work for us got up and made a video, and it has a little humor in it, so people actually watched it. And our hand injuries have gone down. So here's lifting chains. We had some lifting chains that were out of compliance, and people didn't understand that you had to inspect them and get them certified every year. So we sent a bulletin out saying this is the condition that they're supposed to be in, here's good, here's bad, that kind of thing. Haven't had any since, so keep your fingers crossed. So here's where we're at. This is 2018, 2019. You can see over here, here's our first quarter hand injuries. We did the glove analysis, and by the time our second quarter came around, third and fourth, we actually reduced that by about 50%. And we were at the same place then, and we actually reduced it this second quarter also. So it's continued to go down, but sprains and strains, still high. And so that's the one that we're really focused on right now, trying to get a handle on what can we do to make things better. I don't think that just stretching in the morning is going to be the ticket, but it certainly isn't going to hurt. We're going to have to figure out a way to get the people limbered up, or some of them are just because they don't want to ask for help. They're lifting things that are too heavy, trying to move things in a bad situation. We found housekeeping things that we're addressing by, explaining to the supervisor during their compliance reviews, these are the things you're supposed to be looking at, helping them get all that stuff put together in a package for them. And iAuditor is a program that we're going to entertain getting, so that it's just an app that you get. It's really a comprehensive inventory of the condition of your facility. You can actually just take a picture with your phone or your tablet, and it adds it right to the section that you're in. It's pretty slick. We're going to see how it works, better than a piece of paper. So here's our total ZERA reports by calendar year. We have quite a few injuries. We're right on track with last year, right? Same exact numbers. Unfortunately, the sprains and strains have gone up. And I use the analogy, sometimes these injuries are like whack-a-mole. You fix this one over here, and then this one pops up, and then you work on that one, and then that one pops up over there. We did have a rash of vehicle accidents this winter. Everybody understands why, right? We had a lot of people that we were taking out of the valley, putting up on the mountains on the hill to go help, and some of them had never been in the snow before. That's on us. They didn't get any winter driving training. So that's just the second and quarter report in categories. Those are the categories that we actually keep track of. Believe it or not, we still have eye injuries. It's mandatory for our mechanics to wear safety glasses while they're in the shop. We provide face masks, goggles, and we still have bump caps for head injuries, and we still have injuries. I think the key is I just wanted to get away from let's have a tailgate safety meeting on it. That's not gonna fix it. It's a culture. You think about a mechanic, one of the first ones we had was a mechanic slipped off of a drain plug, trying to loosen the drain plug, and busted his knuckles pretty good. Was off work for a day. When you ask the people out in the shop, they go, well, he's a mechanic, he busts his knuckles all the time. I said, yeah, but he doesn't have to. So you dig deep down into the reasons, right? What is the root cause of that injury? Well, it was a myriad of errors. It went from the person that did the oil change last time didn't replace the drain plug that was rounded off. This person didn't have the right wrench on it. And he didn't have gloves on. No impact resistant gloves. So we did a safety bulletin on it. What to do, how can you fix it? We made sure that all the drain plugs are in stock, so I'm sure that's why. Well, I went to the parts department and said, I need a drain plug for this, and they said, we don't have it, we gotta get it. And he goes, oh, forget it, never mind. Put the old back. So it's really, you have to get down to the root cause for it to actually make a difference. And the root cause for the sprains and strains is a really hard one. Because I could just reach over and go like that, and then I have a strain. And that's happened. So that's kind of what we're working on. These are some of the safety bulletins that we put out. That's the face shield. We noticed one of the big ones for us was our face shields. And I've been with the state 23 years, almost 24. We've had the same face shields in stock since I started. And I asked the parts department, why do we have those? It's because they store easy on the shelf. They're flat. And then you wrap them around with the headgear. Well, these actually wrap around, as you can see. Kind of keeps your face a lot more protected. And then we had people slipping and falling on the ice, so we got some crampons over there. There's a bunch of crushing fingers, heat illness prevention. That's a big thing right now going on with OSHA as far as, you know, we have actual yards that are out in El Centro. It's in the desert. That it gets really hot out there. One of the things that I did was make sure that they don't have swamp coolers out there anymore. We put HVAC systems in. So now it can be 120 outside, you walk in the shop and it's 82. However cool they want it. Because the swamp cooler out there during monsoon season, if it's 120 outside, it's 108 inside. Hard to have people work in those kind of conditions. And if they worked outside, they had to carry a 5-gallon bucket around to put their tool with water, put their tools in. Because it would burn their hands if the tools got so hot. This is the safety program that the Division of Equipment's been doing for about a year and a half now. And I'm pretty excited about it. Main thing is we're actually tracking it now. We're looking at solutions now instead of just looking at injuries that happen and the record. We're doing things to improve it. And every day, this is like a live document that, you know, it's ours. We can do what we want with it. We can change it better. And really what it's for is it's not for me. It's for all the employees of ours so that they go home safe every night. That's the big fear of mine, is I don't want to be the guy to have to go to somebody's family because something happened. Any questions?
How does your risk management team incorporate with what you do? Because this sounds like you're kind of autonomous and you're doing it, and that's all great. But we don't, if we brought up one thing, it would be stonewalled for a while, just the red tape, getting something changed.
Remember I mentioned that Deloitte thing? Our actual safety and health division was the actual sponsors of that Deloitte meeting. When I raised my hand saying I like that Paul O'Neill thing, I'm going to do that, because that was one of the things at the Deloitte that they said you have to take one thing away from here and go implement it. So I raised my hand and said that's what I'm going to do. It was embraced, and really it has brought the rest of the department to another level of awareness. Safety and health is trying to do something very similar to that, where they get to the root cause of accidents instead of just being the keeper of the data. So I kind of got the blessing there to move forward with it.
And it's not much of a question, it's more of a comment. Thank you for presenting this. I think the whole idea is to first take something away, and I like the whole idea of the safety bulletins being presented. I think that's a huge effect. So my comment back is ITD has recently changed from what we call a punitive safety program of identifying if an accident was preventable or non-preventable and then charging employees if they had a preventable accident, to doing just what you're doing. Look at every accident and determine what the root cause is and then fix that root cause. If it's more training, if it's awareness for the employee or whatever. So, and we've seen great strides in just the whole culture associated with safety. Now people report, they're encouraged to report near misses so that people can understand and can communicate it. So kudos to you, the whole idea of the safety bulletin, I'm gonna take back to our safety manager and say, just like you're doing every time we have an intermission or something, submit a safety bulletin so you communicate what happens to people. Great job, thanks.
Thank you.
I think one of the other things that's kind of helping in our state is, just to kind of go off what Steve was saying, is that almost all of our districts are implementing the 5S program now to clean up their shops and not have all that stuff in the way. And from the feedback at first there was a lot of resistance, like, I need that 30-year-old piece of metal that's been sitting there, but not really. And the feedback now is like, thank God they got rid of that 30-year-old piece of metal.
Right.
This is a little bit off topic, but kind of safety related, and I'm just kind of wondering what Caltrans and everybody else is doing. I've been asked, if safety is so important to all of our employees, are we incorporating a lot of the new safety features in our equipment? Crash detection, automatic braking, crash avoidance, a lot of this stuff. I was just curious who's doing what and what some of these costs are.
As far as Caltrans equipment goes, we buy, this off-the-shelf stuff that we can buy. We haven't incorporated anything into the heavy-duty fleet, except for everything that leaves Chris's shop is leaving with a backup camera. That's about as far as it's gone with improving the safety equipment of it. Huh?
We also are cognizant of things like steps. We've gone through and redone steps on manufacturer's equipment so that that first step is hopefully the first step is 18 inches or lower to the ground, and then we try to make them equidistant, which is kind of odd to me that you can buy, I bought a lot of trucks. That first step might be 24 inches, the next one 10, the next one 13, and we have guys that fall out of the truck when they're working on it. So we've done, based when they hit our shops, we see that there's a problem, we also try to mitigate it. And like Bob said, a couple of years back, everything that leaves our shop now, we put on backup cameras or multiple cameras.
But like your light duty fleet, are you speccing them with like automatic braking or lane detection or any of that stuff?
Not yet. Those are, they're not, I don't know that they're widely available right now in the industry. Some of the higher end cars, like we have the Toyota Mirai, I think it has that lane detection system. But that's about the only one that I know. And those lane detection systems, they've been around for quite a while. So I'm kind of surprised that the heavy industry hasn't, taken that on yet.
So one of the other things that the maintenance division is doing is they're updating their manual to include buffer lanes for when they have a lane closure and to reduce speed limit to 10 miles an hour. And then they have COZEEP and MAZEEP out there on almost every lane closure job they have now. So I have a patrol sitting at the job with the lights flashing. That seems to be very effective about slowing people down. Night work, they ended up getting some new uniforms, going back to orange with the stripes on the back for daytime and then nighttime flight. But some of those are just some of the initial things that they're doing to help out there.
Yeah, Brian, on the light duty vehicles, we're going with, the state fleet actually buys the vehicles for us, and they go out and get they do the specs and the awards, but if it has a safety feature available, we've been getting that, be it lane departure detection, obviously ABS, or any other safety features, we'll go ahead and get those if they're available, but
On the trim level that you're speccing, or if you've got to go to a Denali trim level to get the automatic.
no, we're not doing that. It's, what's within the boundaries of the state award, we're getting the highest level safety we can get
On that trim
on
level.
that trim level.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.